Hey y'all, it's West Virginia History with Mrs. B, and this is episode 6 on how to create your social studies fair project, and it's all about creating your display board. Now, the social studies fair rules do allow for a digital display. However, I have never seen a project make it past county that just has like a PowerPoint. So it's really important that you use like one of those display boards, like the white cardboard display boards. The rules say that your project can be no larger than 30 inches front to back, 36 inches wide, 48 inches high. Okay, and so those white display boards that are available are super helpful. I also recommend maybe even getting one of those header boards that fits on the front, like so you have the header above it, because those are legal as well. Okay, so you can have like a digital display to go with it, like say survey results or interviews like that you've recorded digitally, or you could display, survey results, but an actual physical display is definitely recommended for participating. So I just want to go over things. You are not allowed to bring a table from home. You have to use their table. You can also store things under the table or use the space in front of your table to display things as well. You can hang stuff from the front of the table, like say you want to put a chart in front of the table or a chart in front of the table, like on top of the table. You can do that to maximize your space and your information. You can also display things. I do recommend, if you are bringing items of value for your display, take them with you and then just put them out right before you present. So this could include things like your computer, different artifacts. We don't want things to be stolen. For example, we had items stolen at a fair once, and there's nothing that we can do about that because there are hundreds of projects at a fair. If there's anything that's valuable, you need to keep it in your possession and take it in when you present and then take it back out with you. So if you have food as part of your display, it has to be in a sealed container and you cannot offer it to the judges. So judges don't ask for food because, there are things to deal with, food allergies, etc. The following things are prohibited. You're not allowed to have live animals, anything with flames or flammable materials or sources of heat, no dry ice, no weapons or ammunition. This includes toys and replicas. This goes so far as I had someone who had a military display and they had little green army men, and they were told that they could not display the little green army men because they had the little plastic weapons, and so they had to cut the weapons off. So don't do that. Don't have anything with sharp items, tobacco products, any hazardous substances, batteries with open cell tops, anything that might be prohibited by your county board of education, or anything else that a fair coordinator says is inappropriate. So my suggestion for creating your display, don't do your board until you have your research and your abstract complete. Once you have your research done, you know what you're trying to communicate, then you can build your board. You want to make sure everything on your board is neatly printed and eye-catching. That means you can, cut out really nice letters or get letters at Walmart, or you can print stuff off of your computer. I also recommend lay everything out where you want it on the board before you tape it down. Make sure everything's neatly spaced, that it's straight. You don't want things crooked on your board. You can print things just from a regular printer very easily. Color, if you can print in color, that's great. But don't tape stuff down or glue it down until you have it laid out and it looks perfect, like how you want it to be. Also, if you're printing things out, I recommend using colored paper behind it just to make it pop on that white board. And so don't glue or tape down to the end. I also recommend, when it comes to sticking stuff on your board, Scotch tape makes this double-sided tape. It's yellow it's what the package looks like. It is really, really effective to putting stuff on your board. Plus, you don't get like the bubbles from like the glue. It lays a lot flatter with the double-sided tape. I also recommend that you practice reading stuff from a distance. The people who are judging you will probably be 5 feet away from your board, and you want them to be able to read what's on your board at like that distance, okay? So you don't want to use super small font. I also recommend doing captions for any pictures, graphs, charts, or whatever, so anybody can come up and enjoy your board and learn something from your board. All right, so for your headers, if you're using headers like to explain information, like say you're putting like your research process or your conclusions or your purpose, make sure your header is big enough above that so your judges can find that information very easily. It is important to make sure your stuff's not too cluttered. Judges, sometimes less is more. We found that out with my niece and nephew's project, that we put out a whole bunch of stuff, and they were like, we'd rather you just narrow this down and put a few things out that are really important instead of putting out, everything. So I also recommend that you have visuals like charts, diagrams, pictures, because that catches people's attention on your board. And I can't recommend this enough. If you are doing a project, find a tablecloth. You can even just use a $1 plastic tablecloth from Dollar General or like Dollar Tree that coordinates with your picture, like with your project. And so that really just makes it all pop. Now at the state fair, they have tablecloths on the tables already. So you might bring a tablecloth and decide not to use it. But a lower level fair, school fair, county fair, regional fair, you're probably not going to have tables with tablecloths. So it just makes it look nicer and neater. Important to note too, your name should be nowhere on your display board, your abstract, etc. So make sure you do not include your name, your county, etc. anywhere on your project. I recommend too on your displays that fewer colors are usually better. So, if you're doing a project on West Virginia, golden blue is a go-to, but use something that pops, and you want it to be 1 or 2 colors that'll catch people's attention. So something that's bright will be very, very helpful. I can't suggest this enough. Make sure you figure out what you're going to do, what colors you want, and like invest in it. You might want to buy a border for your board in that color, and then, coordinating colors, like 1 or 2 colors really, really pop. But you just want something that's neat. You just want to make sure it's clean and neat. That whatever you put on there typing wise or picture wise, that you have really nice border behind it. You don't have to spend a ton of money for a display to be really, really successful. I also can't recommend this enough. If you're planning on competing, you need to put an abstract or at least 1 or 2 abstracts with your board, and you need to put your board in a garbage bag. Because the fair is in the winter and you never know if it's going to be pouring the rain, snowing, etc. It always seems at the regional fair that there's precipitation coming out of the sky. So you're going to want to put your board in a bag, a nice big garbage bag, so you can haul it around. You want to make sure, like this board that you create in January lives through April if you make it all the way to the state fair. If you want to get fancy, there are a lot of fancy boards, but remember, boards are the fewest points. They're only worth 25 points. As long as your board is neat, you use it to give your speech and to answer your questions, after your speech. Your board does not have to be the fanciest thing in the world. If it's clean, it's neat, it looks nice, that's what's really key. So you can do a board for not a lot of money. You can use construction paper and like school border that costs $1, and it can be really, really successful. You know, a lot of my students use the Ellison machine at school and cut out the letters for their board. It does not have to be super fancy, as long as you're neat and you've got images that catches people's eyes. It does not have to be fancy to win. You need to be able to convey your information. So thanks for joining me on this episode of West Virginia History with Mrs. B as we talk about display boards. There are lots of pictures out there. You can get ideas online, but remember, display board's 25 points. What really matters is your speech, which is worth 35, and your abstract, which is 40. So you can be really successful in social studies fair without spending a lot of money on a fancy display board. So thanks for joining me.